Okay, we're into another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today I have a really special premiere for you guys from a brand new watch brand coming to Kickstarter called LIBERUM. They're designed in Italy, and essentially their line is created to be assembled to suit your mood. The watch allows you to choose the color of the dial and the case, and then you can work out all of the pairings that you want to create multiple configurations. And they really just had this idea that they wanted to make collecting of watches easier, and so that you can increase your collection as well as do it in an economical and sustainable way. In terms of the type of watch, I'd consider this an everyday watch. Some key common characteristics in design: when you're looking for something you can wear every day, of course you're just going to be looking for that versatile blend of sporty and dressy attributes. Of course, I think this also does err more on the side of sporty, but there's definitely some high-end design to it in terms of kind of that Genta-esque porthole style. This is the DMD 001 prototype, and it's essentially a super versatile watch built on a fully modular platform, and it's coming to Kickstarter in March of 2023, which could be in the future depending on when you're watching this, or it could have already come and gone. And there will be some updates. These are just prototypes. These are some of the few that are out there, so I appreciate the brand reaching out, lending these in for a bit before they get passed on to the next reviewer. But some of the differences are you're going to be having a screw down crown, you're going to get 100 meters of water resistance, as well as better strap fitment, improved hardware, and an updated tool that's provided. And essentially the eventual price on these is going to be €259. That'll be eventually be the full price, but the first 30 days of launch on Kickstarter will actually get you quite a few different breaks in terms of pricing. Like the first 0 to 25 are going to be $149, with the next 26 to 50 being $179, and then the final 51 units to close are going to be $199, as well as offering some Kickstarter only combo options will also be available only on Kickstarter. So if you're going to buy multiple units, maybe one for you and one as a gift, then you have some other options there too. So with that long intro out of the way, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, so there's definitely a lot to take in. Different cases, different dials, different straps, but what we have here is something very, very cool. So this is basically white dial, if I can get it to, there we go, white dial, white strap configuration, and it is very, very cool, even at just this kind of base element before you swap anything out as a prototype. I think this is just a really handsome design, and then the fact that they added a lot of color play, I think, is actually very, very cool. So let's just breathe this in a little bit and look at some of the dimensions. 42 millimeters in diameter, only 12 millimeters thick, about actually at coming in at just under 12 millimeters at 11.9, and then being only 48.5 millimeters lug to lug. This is going to be a TPE, or thermoplastic elastomer case, and then when we get to the crystal, we do have a nice sapphire with an inner AR coating. You're getting this integrated 60-minute indexed bezel there, and then you're getting a push-pull crown on the prototype, but it will be a screw-down crown on the production model, but it is signed even on the prototype. The movement inside is a Seiko Instruments NH35A, very familiar to the microbrand world, with a 41-hour power reserve beating at 3 Hertz, or 6 ticks per second, or 21,600 vibrations per hour. So good choice from that standpoint. Also helps keep the pricing down. You do, of course, get a display case back, so you can see that with a customized rotor there, just blacked out and branded. And then we get into the details of the dial. It is printed, and you do have a date at the 3 o'clock, which is nicely integrated with a matching window there, as you can see, a matching disc, I should say. And in terms of the handset, painted and loomed. And then you do have a Swiss Superluminova there, and I believe it's C1, but don't quote me on that. This is just a prototype. This will have 100 meters of water resistance or 10 atmospheres, and that will be thanks to that screw down crown, which will help ensure that. But and then of course this integrated lug design, which, like I mentioned on the production units, the fitment will be better. So you're going to see some, if I really tweak it, you'll see some gaps and whatnot, but that'll all be tightened up on the production model. So it's exciting that they kind of already did identify quite a few things, and that's before the Kickstarter even launched. So once it launches, I'm sure the backers will have something to say and tweaks and whatnot, and you can see this evolve even more. But for the time being, this is kind of a crude representation of an actual really, really cool and exciting idea. I love this modular idea there. Getting into these integrated lugs, although you do have quick release, so you can change them. So you technically, if you wanted to, you could use of course here you would just use different straps that are already made to fit and whatnot. But the nice thing is you have a bunch of different choices, which I think is really cool. Check out these choices. You have gray. Well, but for the dials, you have white or gray. And then in terms of the body, you can do green, tan, blue, gray. It's a very, very cool. And I think, overall, this is just a cool look, guys. Like, this thing is awesome. It actually reminds me of kind of a mix between a G-Shock and maybe a Hublot. I know Hublot gets a lot of hate, but clearly, design-wise, they do some cool things that are organically on the wrist, especially when you think about the integrated rubber type of straps. And this does have, although it is quite affordable, there is something that does feel very high design and upscale about it, even though it's using, very, I say, humble parts, right? You're getting a Seiko movement, but you're getting more capability eventually with a screw down crown, 200 meters of water resistance, stuff like that. I think that really plays well. And I like this whole idea that you could probably buy one of these watches and then you can change things out to kind of suit. And to say change things out, I mean, I think it's pretty simple for you guys to understand. You could swap out, of course, different strap options. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We've all swapped straps. But one thing I'll also quickly show, apart from this, we'll get that plugged in. Oh, hey, that went in pretty easy, right? And again, this is the kind of prototype version. We all understand swapping straps, but you can also swap the cases, which is what this tool is for right here. Essentially, you see this end, and the tool will actually be updated in the future. I believe this end, instead of being kind of a screw driver end, will be like a spring bar end, I believe. But as you can see, very easy, very simple. But when you take a look here, you'll also notice that there are some spaces. So if you wanted to swap out the dial, what you could do now is, well, I guess we don't have to take both straps off, but why not? Essentially, you would go into here, right? And then you would open up this screw. Oh. Okay. There's the hardware there. So you are going to actually, that was one of the things they are going to improve. You're going to have a deeper screw set there. So you can see that right now this one on the prototype might be considered slightly shallow. So, you don't want to make something to where it can get stripped very easily. So nice that they've already kind of thought of that coming out of the original production line there. Pop that screw out. So now that the screws are both popped out, essentially we should be able to, boom. So very, very cool, right? So now you can take this gray dial and say, hey, well, maybe I'm going to want something a little bit on the neutral side as well. Pair it there, pair it here. I think they actually did choose some interesting colors. If it was me personally launching, I probably just went with like black, white, and gray, and then maybe done less colors for the accessories and more colors for the actual dial, because it is, you know, it does feel like a black dial's missing, but who knows, that could be an extended option at the Kickstarter launch to get more of these. But you can see, very cool. This screws in, so everything comes with it. And then again, yeah, you could stick to the monochrome style, which I kind of like, the tone on tone look. But if you wanted to, you could take this, right? And then you can mix and match and pair. Check that out. This has like a total 90s vibe to it, right? So I think that's really cool. Okay, we're back. So my memory card was full. But I do think it's very cool, essentially, that you can swap things out. I really like that idea. I like that aesthetically what you're going to be swapping out in terms of what's molded in is quite handsome just at a base level. So I mean, I think honestly, if they just made this thing, people would probably buy it. But then you add in kind of this cool other feature, right, which is, oh man, that gray dial would look really sweet on this too. So I just think that that's fun, and it's very simple, 2 screws. So I like that they made it very, you know, customer forward, customer centric, to just make it very easy to swap, very easy to pair. And you know, I'm not going to sit here and swap out every combination. I'll let you guys be the judges, you know, and you can use your imaginations, or you can just check out their website. But basically that screws in, you throw in different pieces, and it just makes it a lot of fun. And then, of course, this beautiful, I think for me, the most attractive one that just kind of jumped out at me was just this all white option. Kind of reminds me of like a limited edition G-Shock kind of look, right? Except it's automatic, which I think is really, really cool. And then, of course, the production model is going to have, you know, extra water resistance, which I like. So, I mean, if I was going to get one, and I'm hoping to, you know, this will get funded and I'll be able to get one, I would probably just go for something like this and just leave it like this. Although it would be fun, I think, to play with swapping out the dial, you know, more so for me than swapping out everything else. I think the dial changes, and then finding a watch that you like on the outside is a cool thing. So that's, you know, that's fun for me. But for all you guys, I mean, you know, you could be all about just some cool dial and then swapping out all the different combinations. And it's even cool that you can kind of have an empty shell of a combination. As you can see here, even without the movement, you can still put these together, and you can kind of have a little capsule just kind of ready to put together and pair. I don't know, there's just something that is oddly satisfying about that. You know, maybe you want to be funny, you can throw it on without it. Okay, well, you're probably not going to want to do that, but I don't know, there's something cool from a storage perspective that I think can be really fun with a brand like this. And I feel like this is something that we've all kind of wanted, you know, especially in the world where swapping bezels is like really cool, right? We have brands that can do that now. You can swap out a bezel without tools, or you can resize a bracelet without tools. So just this idea of modularity for me is very forward thinking. And then I think this design language is definitely very, very cool. And I think we'll catch a lot of people's eyes. So let's go ahead, clear out everything here, get this piece on the wrist, and see how it wears. Okay, guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, this wears really, really well. I dig the all white look. I think it's very, very handsome and quite creative. And yeah, it wraps the wrist. Yes, it's a little bit on the larger side at 42 millimeters, but it's very sporty. And then also the wide strap on it, I think, makes it look suitable. It doesn't look oversized to me. Of course, with it being kind of all one color palette, it's going to look like one big block of color. Versus if it had a contrasting dial, you know, then it would look a little bit different. So with that said, let's actually go ahead and swap the dial out really fast. All right, guys, check that out. So definitely gives it a different look, as you can see, with just having now that contrasting dial. So we'll go ahead and kind of try to get you a truer aspect ratio by just coming in a little bit closer on the wrist, and you can see very, very cool. Again, I think the sizing is actually really smart. 40mm sizing probably would have been really good too, but I think for something that's meant to be very sporty, and then also you're going to give yourself a little bit more room in terms of the material, right, to give you some protection and whatnot for parts that are meant to come on and off. I think it is smart to use that 42mm sizing. But let's actually now try to get another funky color combination going to close that wrist section out. Okay, guys, as you can see, a little bit more outdoor style within that colorway, where you're gonna have the white dial paired with the tan case and then the green strap. So you can really switch it up to different types of themes, which again I think is really fun. And then even the way that this integrates, even though it's a nice tight fit, and you know it'll be even tighter on the actual model, I think even the way the colors kind of blend together has a nice uniform look to it. It doesn't look unfinished. It looks like if you wanted to, you could just buy something that looked like this. So well done on the integration. Also, this integrated strap is polyurethane, and it does have, of course, those quick release spring bars, which is going to make things a nice ease when it comes to swapping things out. And then you're also going to get a signed buckle, as well as that first keeper, getting cool little pattern here so it doesn't look super plain, which I think, you know, you can kind of get in danger with when you are trying to make something that is going to be more so about the color combinations than it is about the overall design. But I do think that this thing wears and looks really, really cool, guys. So with that said, let's actually get it off the wrist and set up for some loom shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, definitely does the job. Very, very cool. But one thing I always like to work in, of course, is some low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or maybe just hanging out in the shade of a tree or in your favorite automobile. So it's nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting, to maybe even include some harsh lighting, which typically could expose any type of factory defects. One thing I was thinking of as I was looking at these is, you know, I mentioned I'd probably start off with like a black, white, and gray. I think red would be really cool. So hopefully this gets a all red option. I think that would be really amazing. I honestly, I think this whole concept is awesome, but I think also the execution, the design, even the color choices were really, really fun. And these, honestly, from having to swap things out, it was actually really easy. You guys saw I didn't, you know, stumble and fumble too much with anything. And it's not like I practiced any of this before setting them out in front of the camera. So I don't know. There's something that's really cool about these that I really, really enjoy. And I would love to see this type of platform grow and continue. So closing thoughts, guys, on the wrist, it really wears like a kind of a premium G-Shock. It hugs the wrist well, and it feels very nicely proportioned. Of course, it is on the larger, sportier side, but I think that's kind of the nature of the design. Would it be cooler in a smaller size? Sure, you could say that. But it would probably have the same size dial with a smaller body, or would you shrink the dial down? You know, I think the proportions are pretty nice where they're at, and I would prefer to see them expand in terms of dial types, colors, materials, and, you know, of course, the expansion on the other existing components versus them trying to figure out new sizes for all this stuff. So I think the 42 is probably a sweet spot from that perspective, you know, because this does have kind of a bezel style design. So you got to think about it as like if it was a 42mm sports watch or dive watch, which is, you know, I think pretty standard affair at this point in terms of sizing. So in terms of model variants, white dial or the gray dial with 6 different case and strap color options. Definitely check the links for, you know, all the different options you can mix and match. And I don't even know if I had all the options here in this video. So comparable models, there's nothing really like this on the market today. I think there are brands that have, you know, of course, experimented with modularity, but I think at this price point, and then of course within this design aesthetic, I think that's where it's kind of fun and different. And then bottom line for me, yeah, this is just a super relevant concept. I think it's smart, and I think a lot of brands should be doing more things like this. So I think it's, again, not only should more brands be doing this, but even the design aesthetic that they chose to do this with as a new brand is very appealing to me. So it's not just the concept, but the execution as well. And honestly, I could easily see this brand kind of going viral, and I wouldn't be surprised if they became the next big kind of micro brand player just for how cool this is. Like I know like right now LIBERUM sounds like this new brand because it is, but again, I could look back on this video and I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if the comment section was full of people that were like, yeah, I bought one, it came, the thing was awesome, I swapped out a bunch of different stuff, and we unlocked different types of dials, different dial styles, different dial materials, you know, different case shapes. That's the beauty of the modularity side of it, is you could keep the same straps but maybe change up the dial, you know, change up the even just the mold that they're going to use for the cases, and have a different design. Maybe it'll be 12 hours, or maybe it'll be smooth, or maybe they can inlay loom into it. Who knows? Maybe they can make the whole thing out of a luminous material. So they could just really go somewhere with this, and I really like that idea. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.